What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of That Makes Zero Sense, the podcast. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We did get a lot of questions this week, but we're going to save those for next week's episode because this week we have a very special guest with us today to talk about parenting and teaching your kids about finance, financial literacy, and just good financial practices in general. So, without further ado, I'm going to hop right into the interview that I had with Heather Weitz. All right, everybody. We have Heather here with us on the show, or as I like to call her, Mimi. um, Mimi, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much again for coming on. I really appreciate it. Um, Today, everybody, we're going to talk a little bit about Mimi's experience as a parent and raising a child who is now very financially literate. We're going to walk through some of the things that she picked up on or things that she parted on to her child. So it'll be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to it. And Mimi, if you're ready to go, I'll just hop right into the questions.
Okay, just a second. First of all, Alex, thanks you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I actually follow you and watch your podcast. I enjoy them and I do find them very educational. I'm really looking forward to today's because it's going to go back 30 years before you were born. And the everyday financial stuff has changed so much, but the principles have not. The
Hmm.
principles that you teach, and hopefully the people listening to this and the people in your life learn those because those don't change.
Hmm.
They're set in stone. So ask a question.
Awesome. I'm sure I'll learn some new stuff today as well. uh, First question for you, Mimi. I think many parents wait for like a big talk about money or finances, but it seems to me that financial literacy is often caught rather than taught in like one lesson. What were the small everyday habits or conversations you integrated into your daughter's life before she was even old enough to, say, open a bank account or even get a credit card?
Well, I have to tell you, in my daughter's case, while she was in elementary school, she was earning wages. She was a child actor and had bit parts. So she would make considerable amount of money, a couple thousand. And for elementary school, that's a big deal. And we would not allow her to spend that. We're like, oh, you made this much money. This is great. We're going to put it in a savings account.
Nice.
Now, we 95% of it would go into a savings account or more, but we would allow her to buy one thing that she just desired. So, like, I remember one time she bought, and she brought this to my attention the other day, a pair of Birkenstocks. So that was her big purchase, but 90 some percent went to a savings account that we watched and we saw the interest grow. And then she did another part and she made a lot more money and we allowed her to spend some of it. And she bought a trampoline. So, but her being introduced to the principle of saving started very young. And she would watch her savings and how much money did I make this month and how much did I do this. And it was kind of, I also to this day, and I did it back then you didn't have, it was so different. You got bills in the mail, you paid bills with checks, you balanced your stuff. There were spreadsheets, there were, data. And I every day would check my finances. I would check my finances every day, and my daughter would also see me doing that, see me opening bills, paying bills, writing checks, which no one does anymore today, and looking at her account. We get a statement in the mail. She has this much, she made this much in savings. So she was used to that kind of stuff of us looking at savings, financial responsibility from a very early age. And
Okay.
also, her responsibility, I gave her the chance to make mistakes. As she got older, she got jobs. Her first job was in a smoothie shop. And, I taught her first thing you do, pay yourself. Pay yourself first. Put money away, a certain amount into a savings account that you don't touch. They're for emergencies. So she did that. So she had her little job in her smoothie shop, and then she became a camp counselor, those little things where she made money. And hers and she enjoyed saving it, and she enjoyed watching her savings grow.
Hmm. Would you say that when you by sort of exposing her to that so young and allowing her to be part of the process and watching, the money grow in the account and saving a little bit each month, I feel like so many parents maybe do the same thing that you do, but don't actually show their kid the account or make them really a part of the actual act of saving. So do you think that sort of maybe made her more aware and more excited to pay attention and find out how much money she was saving because you were sort of actively putting it in front of her and doing it in front of her?
That's a great question. I absolutely think that it did. Many children, you tell on this, you say, we don't have money for this. And they'll say, I don't know if people do this. I've heard kids, yes, you do. Put it on that card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
right.
don't, they don't understand what that means. They don't understand that, yes, that's a temporary loan to you that you should pay off every month so you don't pay interest. And that was taught that, and so, yes, having her see, oh, this is what I make. This is what, she's asked for things. And I'm like, we can't afford that. It's
Mhm.
not in our budget this month. You can't have that. You can put it on your wish list for Christmas or your birthday or stuff like that. And I truly believe, and to this day, I see it with her, how she checks her accounts. She saw it. We didn't sit down and say, this is what you should do. We lived it.
Hmm.
We lived it. And
Right.
so I do believe that her being involved in the process was absolutely important to how she is today.
For sure. No different than sports. You can't tell somebody how to swing a baseball bat, but if
No.
they do it 100 times, they will learn, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's
Hmm.
correct.
Awesome. That's a great answer. I'm gonna move on to the next question, if that's all right with you.
Go ahead.
Um, So, question number two for you, Mimi. As parents, I think the instinct is I'm not a parent yet, but you correct me if I'm wrong. I think the instinct is to protect your kids from failure a little bit. How did you balance giving your daughter the freedom to make financial mistakes as a teenager or as a kid so she wouldn't make like expensive mistakes as an adult? I think you see a lot of adults now who do really silly things with their money just because they maybe didn't have the opportunity to learn when they were a kid, or their parents weren't really or didn't really see that as a worthwhile lesson to teach when they were younger.
Yes. Um, we has always been very financially responsible, even as a kid. But when she was actually a um, high school and a college athlete. So, but when she was in high school, some of the mistakes that we allowed her to make, or not really, she didn't really make mistakes, but the responsibility we gave her. When she was at, from 14 on, she was traveling sometimes by herself. And um, so she would be on a flight by herself, staying in a hotel. So I gave her my credit card in her name, and a card in her name, so she could use it for emergencies, food, things when she's traveling.
Hmm.
There was one time when she got stuck, flight canceled. She needed a card, um, but and she was really good on that. However, she did make mistakes. Back in the very beginning of the internet, you could order things online, which was, I guess she felt that couldn't be traced. So she went online and ordered stuff using the card that she had. And of course, I saw this charge come through on my credit card. So I said, what's going on? And she said, somebody must have hacked into our computer and they've ordered all this stuff, apparently everything that Brittany liked. And so I said, okay, that I understand that, but however, It's all going back. So she did learn little mistakes like that, that you are like, that, you can't do that kind of stuff. But otherwise, she was pretty responsible with her money. I made her accountable, always accountable for how she wanted to spend her money. If she wanted to take something out of her savings for, there was always big discussions. Why do you need it? Is it because someone else has it that you feel you need to have it? Do you really need it? It's going to affect your finances. So there was a lot of discussions before she ever did anything financially.
Hmm. That discussing pulling money from a savings account and being an active parent, and I think in your kid's life when it comes to making decisions like that, I mean, I see time and time again people just pull money from savings to buy something impulse. There's so much impulse buying now, so I think that's like a great thing to know as a parent that you should be at. I think at all ages up until even in college, university. Having those discussions and really asking, why are you taking money from the savings account? That's so important.
Well, I think that we learned that lesson because after when she graduated her undergrad, she looked at the job market and it was just really bad. None of her friends that were graduating were getting jobs or it's in the field that they needed after 4 years of college. So she was like, you know, I'm just going, I'm going to get my master's. So she went back to get her master's. After she got her master's, she she'd been paying rent, she'd been doing this, she'd been doing that, and she always felt she was throwing that money away. So she came and said after she graduated, I'd like to buy a house. And so we sat down and I said, how are you going to come up with the down payment? Tell me how we went through her finances and all. And the first thing out of her mouth, which I was so proud of, she goes, I will not touch my 401k. I'm not pulling it out. And she to this day has not touched it. She started her 401k and she has savings and 401k. Savings you can dip into for emergencies, 401k you should leave and let grow.
Hmm.
And she understands that principle and she would not touch it to put her down payment on her home that she bought as a single woman in her mid 20s, her first home, so that she could have write-offs and stuff like that. But she learned that lesson too. Don't pull your money out. Don't pull your money out unless it's necessary and out of a savings account. Let your 401k grow. Especially as a young person, you should be putting money into it from your very first job and let it
Hmm.
grow.
It's so, yeah, so tempting sometimes for I think young people to make an impulse decision and pull money from a 401k or in Canada the TFSA. Like there's these government benefited accounts that people don't truly take advantage of for until their mid 20s or even early 30s, and by that point you're what, like a decade or a decade and a half of compounding you've missed out on. So that's really great that your daughter got started doing that so young, so early.
Mhm. She
Um,
did.
Mimi, I'm going to move on to the next question here. Uh, so money, I think, is often a taboo topic in many households. Obviously, you've explained to us, and we've now learned from you that in your household it wasn't. But other than the account, like other than looking at your accounts when she was young and sort of making her a part of that process, was there other areas of your financial life that you brought your daughter in on so that she could learn other things, whether it be budgeting or maybe you had a mortgage or credit card bills, or was there stuff that you brought her into the fold on early so she could
Yeah.
understand more than just saving? And although that's a great thing to learn, was there other stuff maybe that you taught her early on?
Yes, I did. I also taught her budgeting.
Nice.
We You have money for this. We have and back then we had I had a spreadsheet. We have money for this. Is how much we're spending on this. Mortgage. I taught her also early on, which many teenagers. I think this is much more true today than it was when she was a teenager. We're talking. Uh, I'm talking in the 90s 2000, so it's a long time ago. People is keeping up with the Joneses a thing people say now?
Yeah.
Say, don't know. But why can't I have this brand of clothing? Why aren't we driving this brand of car? Or so many people live beyond their means or right to their means. You should always live below your means. And I taught her that it's not really, you don't have to, just because someone else is wearing this brand or driving this car or doing, living in this big fancy house. Yeah, you could afford it, but do you need it? I, we always live below our means. And um, if we have money from the budget we set out left over in the month, we might go out for a big dinner, and then we put the rest in savings. Just
Hmm.
topped it off. So I think she learned from a young age about that, about budgeting, um, that you don't have to don't spend everything you make after your savings. You don't have to spend everything you make. Your budget isn't to look, oh, I'm bringing home this much money after I've saved this much money. Oh, I have to spend that much. That's not your budget. Your budget is you need this much for food, this much, you don't have to spend everything in your budget. You know,
Right.
and so I taught her that, and she's learned that quite well.
That's awesome. So she definitely isn't one of those people who sees at the end of the month, oh, I've got $1,000. All my expenses have been paid for, and now I'm going to buy myself something that's $1,000. There's so many people like that, but that's awesome that she obviously learned the right way from you, not to do something like that every month.
I'm going to say that this here, if you have $1,000 left over in the month and you're trying to look to spend it, that makes 0 cents.
That makes zero sense. Yes. Exactly right, Mimi. I'm going to move on to the final question here. Looking at your daughter now as a financially responsible adult, if you had to distill your approach into let's say, like a little course or a little program for other parents, what are the three most non-negotiable concepts a child must master before they leave the house or the nest that people call it now? Like, give me your top three things that parents should be instilling in their kids before the kids move out.
They really need understanding of finance, of budgeting, financial responsibility. They're going to be, I know my daughter went to college when she was 17, so she wasn't a legal adult yet. But at 18, they're legal adults. They can do what they want. They can apply for a credit card. They can do, make them aware of their uh, what financing is, what budgeting is, and financial responsibility. Another thing is, I think before a child goes off to college, you need to have a real deep discussion about finances in college, the cost of college, and involve your child in that. Even if you can, and even if I could, don't pay the whole, it's up to you as a parent to decide. Make them responsible for part of their college costs, be it part of the tuition, room and board, or maybe just part of their food cost. Don't pay for everything. Make them responsible, because they're going to start now. This is going to start the pattern of their financial freedom and their financial responsibility as an adult. So make sure they understand that. Understand that they're accountable for all that they have. They're
Mhm.
accountable for what they spend. Um, that you're there for them as their parent, but you're not going to bail them out if they decide to go to Cabo for a weekend, or if they're going out, you know, 3 or 4 times a night with their friends for dinners, and they're running up all these credit card bills. Don't bail them out, and let them know that you're not going to bail them out. You weren't there when they did it, and you're not going to pay for it. You'll be there. when it really matters, if it's something medical or whatever, you're going to be there for your children,
Of
but you're
course.
not going to bail them out if they get into a bad place. Um, I also feel that, oh, another thing I talked about, which um, I'm a 70-year-old woman. I've been working at the same job for 41 years. When you go, your first few years, you don't know what you're going to really do in college. You don't have to declare, but choose a job or an interest that you really are passionate about, because it truly is. If you go into a career that you love, you're never going to work a day in your life. And, I'm at the point now in my life where I could very well financially retire, but I don't, because I love my job. I love to go to work. And if you choose the right career path, you can do that where it's not work. It's not work. It's something you love. So talk to them about their choices, what they do in college. College is not just social. It's to go get an education for something that you love.
Hmm. Maybe let me ask you a question on that point, actually. Would you even go as far as saying, let's say a kid has gone to school for 5 years, came out with a degree, and works a job for 1 year, really hates it? I mean, based on the answer you just gave, I would even say, and I would tend to agree with you, it might be worthwhile for that kid to take another year or two, or maybe do a different program or something like that to really figure
Absolutely.
out. Obviously, we hope that
Absolutely.
after 5 years they can figure it out, but um, it's almost not worth it to do something awful the rest of your life. But some people find themselves in that situation.
That's true. And I'll tell you something they can do, that my daughter did. While she was in her undergrad, working on the course that she was going through, she got an unpaid internship because she couldn't find one that was paid. So she got an unpaid internship in the field that she was going toward. And that can show you, while you're still in college, am I really going to like this? Can
Hmm.
I really do this? So possibly get some kind of internship at the field you're going into to see if you really like that. Don't wait until you're finished and then get into the job and think, oh my gosh, I've wasted 5 years. I've wasted 4 years and all that money
Right.
on something that I'm not going to do. Um, Volunteer in the field that you want to work in. Get familiar with it. Don't just have it in your head as an idea of something you want to do. And
Hmm.
if it doesn't work out, you know, pivot, take another path, and see what works for you. But it is important, I think, to work in a field that you love, or you're going to hate working every day.
Hmm. And you won't be as motivated, and you might find yourself, I don't know, maybe 20 years from now quitting and having to work in a different job that you hate, but just switching because you can't
Yes,
stand the first one. I think it
yes,
leads to so many issues. You're right. um
yes.
I,
And I had done that too. Um, from an early age, she was always interested in her field that she was going into, and it worked out for her. But she did, like I said, she got the internship, and to this day, she still loves her job. Just still loves going to work, loves her job, and I'm happy for that. Happy for her for that.
mhm. That's awesome. I'm happy for her, and I'm happy to hear, Mimi, obviously, that you knocked it out of the park with your daughter and teaching her all these very, very important lessons that so many people fail to teach their kids. Before we finish it all off, is there anything else you want to add or anything else you'd like to say? We do have, I think, 5 more minutes left on the recording. So anything you want to add, or if not, I can go ahead and end it.
Oh, no, I think that's all.
All right, folks, there you have it. That's the interview that we did with Heather Weitz. We really appreciate her coming on and sharing some of her wisdom with us. Next week, like I said, we're going to be back to the normal programming. I'm going to answer some questions that we had last week about the markets and next week about the markets. So stay tuned for that. I hope you have a very good Friday and an even better weekend. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one. The content of this podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The views and opinions expressed by the host and any guests are solely their own and do not reflect the views of any employer, firm, or affiliated institution. Any examples or strategies discussed are general in nature and may not be appropriate for your personal circumstances. Always consult a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any financial decisions. The host and production team assume no liability for any loss or damage resulting from reliance on the information provided in this podcast.